Let's start this part of our course by creating a simple straight line. First, let's press F2 and select an area you want to zoom. There are several ways in which we can create a straight line. Let's first use the freehand tool. Switch to the freehand tool. When we click and hold the mouse button, we can draw irregular lines, but there's also a way to draw a nice straight line with this tool. Click once and move your cursor. Now hold Ctrl. When we hold Ctrl, the line switches by 15 degrees every time we move the cursor, but we need only a simple horizontal line. To create this line, just release Ctrl and click once. Let's try that again. Press Ctrl Z and switch to the freehand tool. Click once and move your cursor. Hold Ctrl and click once to finish the line. Let's analyse how we can do the same thing with the 2-point line tool. Switch to this tool, click and hold the mouse button, hold Ctrl key and move your cursor. Move your cursor to change the line. To finish the line, just release Ctrl and then the mouse button. So we just click, hold the mouse button, hold Ctrl and move our cursor. To finish the line, we just release Ctrl and the mouse button. As you can see, different tools require different techniques to create a straight line. Let's move to the next tool, Bezier tool. Switch to this tool and click once to create the first point. Now, click again to create the next point. With this tool, we can't use Ctrl to help us create an ideally straight line. We can, however, use guidelines to do that. Go to the View menu, then Snap To, and check the Snap to Guidelines option is active. Switch to Bezier tool, move your cursor over the guideline and click once to create the first point. Now, move your cursor to the right and create the next point. As you can see, we've successfully created a nice straight horizontal line. The starting and ending point of this path was created on the same guideline. Thus, we achieved a line that's perfectly straight. Let's now try to use the pen tool. Switch to pen tool and click once. Hold Shift and move your cursor. As you can see, the line angle changes for 15 degrees every time we move the cursor. What's different here is that when we click for the second time, the path isn't complete. As you can see, we're still editing it. To end this line, we need to click on the ending point for the second time. We could analyse the rest of the tools, but they're pretty similar to what we've just talked about. Instead, let's use the rectangle tool. Switch to rectangle tool, and then draw a rectangle. Go to Arrange menu and click on Convert to Curves. Switch to Shape tool and select all nodes. Then go to the control bar and click on Break Curve icon. We now need to break this object apart. Go to the View menu and click on Break Curve Apart. Click on the side to deselect all lines. Now we can move each of these lines separately. You must admit that this technique is too complicated and takes too much time. Let's move on to the project. So how will we create straight lines here? Well, we'll use the guidelines. The space between these two guidelines is 5 mm. Let's change the nudge option. Make sure that there's no selection on the screen and go to Control Bar. Change the nudge distance to 2.5 mm and press Enter. As you can see, Corel didn't change the value. It's because we need to use the dot instead of a comma. Change the nudge distance to 2.5 mm and then press Enter. Nudge distance changes the amount of space by which the selected object will move when we use one of the arrow keys. Nudge distance is now set to 2.5 mm. We got this number by dividing the space between these two guidelines. Switch to Freehand tool. Let's now clarify where we'll start our line. Instead of clicking somewhere here, we'll click on the intersection between these guidelines. Let's zoom in some more. Click on this intersection once. Move your cursor to the left and place it over the corresponding intersection, right here. Click once to end this line. Now, press the up arrow key once to move the line. Go to the control bar and change the outline weight of this line to 1 mm. Change the outline colour by clicking on the red with the right mouse button. Scroll up and let's create another line. We could have just created this line at any point and changed its X and Y axis position, but this would be too problematic. Instead, we'll just use the nudge to move it is quicker and more convenient. The base for our line can either be at the top of the guideline or the bottom one. Let's use the top guideline. Click on the intersection here, move your cursor to the left and click on the corresponding intersection on the right. The nudge distance is set to 2.5 mm, so the line is now placed between these two guidelines. Go to the control bar, change the outline to 1 mm and press enter. Click on red with the right mouse button to change the colour of the line. We can also change these options in the Outline Pen Options window. Both lines are now placed in the right place. Press Shift and F4 to fit the page on the screen. We'll now create the plane. Zoom in right here. Let's talk about clip arts. What is a clip art? It's a ready-made picture available in the program. All Corel clip arts can be accessed through the Connect Docker. Go to Window menu, then Dockers and click on Connect. We now need to locate the folder with clip arts. So where are these clip arts? Well, you can buy Corel clip arts. They come saved on the separate disk. Insert the disk now and access it through the Connect Docker. Open the collection folder. If your folder options are configured right, you should see the little icon representing each clip art. As you can see, this option is deactivated on my computer. Let's move to a random clip art in our document. If we want to use only one particular element of this picture, we can always ungroup it. Select the object, go to View menu and click on Ungroup. We can now move each part of this clip art separately and use it in our projects. So clip arts are ready-made pictures which can be accessed through the Connect Docker. Of course, we can also access clip arts through Windows. Just open the disk and browse through the folders containing various clip arts. If you want, you can also change the view mode to make these icons turn into small previews. Right now, this is active on my computer, but it may happen that you have it inactive. Let's move on. Press the F2 and draw a selection including the area you wish to zoom. Switch to Bezier tool. We'll use this tool to create a base for the plane. It's not about making it look as good as we can. We'll use this base and edit it later to create a fully detailed object. If you want, you can switch to wireframe view. In this view mode, the lines are softer and there are no colours. This way we can see the path better. As I've said before, don't worry if your plane doesn't look that good. All flaws can be ironed out later on. Click on the starting point to close this path. Now switch to the Shape tool and select all nodes. Well, we'll leave these nodes out. Click on the side to deselect all nodes. Select only these nodes. Well, let's also select this one. Hold Shift and add this node to the selection. Go to the control bar and click on Convert to Curve icon. Now change these nodes to symmetrical nodes. Let's now delete some of them. This will make the path smoother. Move these nodes to change the path. Let's now edit the tail of the plane. Move these nodes to make it a bit slimmer. Select this node and convert it to a symmetrical type node. Move on to editing the top of the figure. Move these two nodes down. Well, this part is now ready, so let's switch back to normal view. Go to View menu and click on Normal. Change the fill colour to orange and set the outline of the colour to none. Switch to Rectangle tool and draw a small rectangle. Let's rotate it. Make sure that this figure overlaps the plane. Select both figures, then go to the control bar and click on Intersect icon. Click on the yellow to change the fill colour of this new element. Select this rectangular outline and move it up. We now need to cut this plane into two parts. First, we need to draw a line. Switch to the Bezier tool. Create the first point here and the next point outside the plane. Bend this line a little by moving the cursor while creating these points. Now we have a line which is longer than the plane. As you probably remember, trimming the object will open the path and it can be problematic. Let's duplicate this line. If something can go wrong, we can always have a backup line. Select the original line and change its outline weight to 1 mm. Go to the View menu and click on Wireframe. Go to Arrange menu and click on Convert Outline to Object. Converting this outline to object resulted in deleting the original path. That's where the duplicate becomes useful. Go to View menu and click on Normal. Click on the blue figure, hold Shift and click on the plane figure. Go to the control bar and click on the Intersect icon. Let's change the fill colour of this new element to yellow. Now, move this blue figure away. We won't need it anymore. Let's now select this path. Press the up arrow key several times. Let's move this path over the plane. We'll now use this path to cut the plane in half. Select the path, hold Shift and add the plane figure to the selection. Go to the control bar and click on Trim icon. Go to Arrange menu and click on Break Line Apart. Click on the side to deselect all objects. Now select only the bottom part of the plane and change its fill colour to blue. Let's now select this path and delete it. Select the dark blue object created from the outline and delete it as well. As you can see, these two elements fit each other perfectly. Go to View menu and click on Wireframe. You can now clearly see the line dividing these two parts. Go to View menu and click on Normal. Switch to Rectangle tool. Now create small windows that will go along the plane. Draw a small rectangle and change its fill colour to grey. Set its outline to none. We can now duplicate this element and place the copies along the plane by using the Blend tool. But first, let's rotate this object a little bit. This way it will match the plane. Switch to the Pick tool, duplicate this object and place the copy at the other side of the plane. Select the first object, hold Shift and add the second one to the selection. Now switch to the Blend tool. Blend tool changes one object into another. Now we have two objects that are exactly the same, so the blend object will multiply them. Click on the first object, hold the mouse button and move your cursor over the last object. Go to the control bar. Here we can change the amount of steps that the blend effect has. This value regulates how many objects will appear between the initial and the ending point. Switch to the Pick tool and click on the side to deselect and try and move the last object. As you can see, spacing between all the objects changes when we move the first or last object. Let's now try to scale this last element. Go to the control bar and change this value to 80%. Well, let's change it proportionally. Press Ctrl Z, activate the ratio lock, change this value to 80% and press Enter. Now select the first object and make its size reduced by 20% as well. Well, the main part of the plane is now ready. We now need to add the rest of the elements. Switch to the Bezier tool and draw a base for the wing. Remember that this is only a base, which we'll now modify. Switch to the Shape tool and change the shape of the path. Make it look like this. Now switch to the Pick tool. Duplicate this wing and rotate it. Another way to do that is to mirror the copied object. Place this figure here and change its fill colour. Well, let's do it differently. Select the first wing, hold Shift and add the second wing to the selection. Change the fill colours and set their outline to none. Select the top wing, go to Arrange menu, then Order and click on to back of layer. Position both wings. Let's now select these objects. Go to Arrange menu and click on Group. As you remember, grouping doesn't weld or destroy objects, it just makes them easier to use. Press Shift and F4 to fit the page on the screen. Let's now position the plane somewhere in the top right corner of the page. Now switch to Text tool. Click once and write Cypress. This type of text is called artistic type text. Click on the text again to activate the rotation and skew points. Drag the left middle skew point and make the look different. Move this text slightly up. Now duplicate the text and move the copy down. Change the fill colour of the copied text to white. Select the copied text and press Ctrl Page down to move it under the blue text. So by doing all of this, we've gained a really nice shadow effect for the text. Well, let's change the shadow colour to something darker. Select the bottom text and change its fill colour to grey. So we've just duplicated the text and moved the copy slightly. Let's now group these two elements. Select both objects, go to Arrange menu and click on Group. Press Shift and F4 to fit the page on the screen. We've just finished the Travel Flyer project.